sorry.
Before calling this Pembroke Upper Ottawa Valley OPP Detachment Board meeting to order for October 22nd, I would respectfully acknowledge on behalf of Council and the community that the City of Pembroke resides on the unceded traditional territory of the Algonquin people. We thank the generations of people who have taken care of this land for thousands of years, and it is with this statement that we honor and respect the Algonquins on whose land we reside. So calling this meeting to order. Are there any disclosed pecuniary interests in relation to the items on the agenda? Seeing none, I'd entertain a motion for the approval of the agenda. I have moved by Des and seconded by Christine. Those in favor? That is carried. We have two sets of minutes. So the first up is July. July 23rd, 2025. So a motion for their acceptance. So I moved by Des and seconded by Michael. Those in favor? That is carried. The second set of minutes for August 27th, 2025, moved by Des, seconded by Michael. Those in favor? And that is carried. Is there any business arising out of either set of minutes? Welcome.
Sorry.
Yeah.
After the special meeting in August, we sent that survey back to council. Did that survey ever get released to the public?
So my understanding is it went to council. Council wanted to add an item to it. And my understanding is now has not gone out to the public. In terms of inspectors, the acting inspector has returned to his detachment and our inspector has returned to our detachment. I've had a conversation with him on October 10th, I want to say, to bring him up to speed on things that have happened since he was, I'll say, seconded. But to my knowledge, it has not gone out yet. So the blip is due to a handover back again. So no, I don't believe it's gone anywhere since then, but I did speak to him about it to say this is what was done. It's been to the PSB, it's been to council. So now it's back with detachment commander to move it forward. So if there's no other items from business arising at this point, I'm going to turn it over to the OPP in respect to their update for the quarter.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So everyone has the Q3 report with them. So your very first page is the billing hours. You'll see a slight reduction of approximately 1,800 hours of billed time compared to 2024 last year. Your very next page, you have the total number of charges laid within the city within the last quarter. So your criminal code non-traffic charges have decreased about 28%. There's a slight increase in criminal code traffic charges, slight increase in your Highway Traffic Act and your Liquor License Act. Overall, a total drop of just 1% of charges being laid within your community. On the bottom of the page, you have the OPP's big four offenses. So speeding, seat belts, impaired driving, and distracted driving. Those are the big four causational factors of collisions and fatalities and injuries on our roadways. Overall, you'll see it would contribute to a large increase, but our speeding charges within the city have increased in this quarter compared to the 2024 mark. Seatbelt charges are exactly equal, slight increase in impaired driving, and a small decrease of one less charge for distracted driving. Your very next page, we have the clearance rates again for this quarter. Clearance rates, and has been presented to the board in the past, some of these investigations take a long time. So when we're looking at it from the quarter, yes, some of the clearance rates are not, some of the investigations are not clear, but they're part of bigger projects or ongoing investigations. Your next page, we have the public complaints page. There's been no public complaints from within the city of Pembroke in this quarter towards our OPP members here. On the bottom half of that page, you have our daily activity reporting or our DAR reporting hours. One line I would like to draw attention to is the very last line of patrol of schools. You'll see in this quarter so far, we have 3.75 hours. What I want the board to be clear on is that that is a data entry piece. That does not mean we've only been in the schools for 3.5 hours, really. If we have our community engagement officer doing safety talks, if through the summer we had bike safety rodeos, those are captured in a different category. And you could make the same application to our ATV patrols through the summer. 5 hours of ATV patrol. We may have been doing extra enforcement at intersections or actual trail enforcement that were captured in certain offense categories. Next page, we have the drug crime within the city. We can see there's been an increase in possession charges of Controlled Drugs and Substance Act charges, or the Federal Cannabis Act. We have had no Federal Cannabis Act charges within the city, but you do see an increase in our Controlled Drugs and Substances Act. That is due to a large number of projects that have been ongoing within the city, especially over the summer months, which I'll touch on after the quarterly report. Our next page, we have the e-ticketing warnings. You'll see there's a significant change from 2024. For e-ticketing, it is a software that the OPP is using to write digital tickets. But what that also gives is the ability for officers to issue warnings with those offenses that are then tracked. So 2 years ago, 3 years ago, if I was on the road and I issued someone a verbal warning for their headlights out, there was no way to track that. So what the OPP has done is created this digital tracking system. So as soon as that person is stopped again, they can see that someone has been warned for that. So yes, e-ticketing warnings are on the increase, but it is in terms of public safety where those infractions where a charge was not laid are able to be tracked by our officers. The very next page, you have the fatalities within your detachment, which I'm happy to say have remained at 0 within the city. Our next page are our mental health act occurrences. Like many communities in Renfrew County or the province, mental health is a significant component when dealing with crime or interactions with police. So those numbers are on the rise. On the bottom half of the page, you'll see that they have the mental health occurrences broken down by occurrence type. I'd like to draw you to an example of the mischief line. So there's been 3 mischief occurrences investigated where mental health has been a component. But what I would like the board to know and understand is that we still always deal with the criminal code or other legislative elements to an investigation. So just because there's a mental health component does not mean that we're not laying charges when required by legislation or necessary, but it is also tracked through mental health. And Pembroke Court and Renfrew County does have a mental health court stream that those cases are then diverted into. Our next page, we have our other crime occurrences. So these do not fit in with drug or one of the upcoming categories. Again, we can break down the different categories. The one I would like to speak to is the other category. So charges such as bail violations or failure to comply are captured under this category. And we are at the whims of the court for when people are released and they have legislative requirements that they have to follow. So when someone is out on bail and reoffends, the fail to comply with their release or bail compliance is tracked through this category. Federal statutes take up the federal acts such as the Firearms Act, whereas criminal code firearm charges would be captured under your crime rates. Provincial statutes, again, besides your Highway Traffic Act, they're going to be your Compulsory Automobile Insurance Act, Fish and Wildlife Game Act, other provincial acts. Driving offenses are purely related to driving. On the next page, we have your overdoses within the city. In this quarter, you've had no fatal overdoses and only one non-fatal reported. That is a significant decrease over the past number of years. But for the board, I'd like to point out that with the warming center, the MESA team, the Heart Hub, some of those overdoses may not be reported directly to the police because they have appropriate people right there at the location to deal with the issue. And obviously, we do not have the numbers of how many potential overdoses the MESA team has responded to. Next page, we have our motor vehicle collisions within the city. Very good decrease in the non-fatal injuries, slight increase with property damage occurrences. Overall, your collisions within the city are remaining status quo compared to the last quarter. Sorry, the quarter of last year, I apologize. Next page, we have the property crime within the city. Again, the reduction in property crime has been relatively consistent over the past number of years as we've been able to deal with some of the more social issues related to property crime. So your break-in enters is down compared to last quarter, which also tracks down compared to 2023. Your fraud mischief relatively all on the decrease. Our next page, we have our unfounded occurrences. This page is put into the reports because they are calls for service that the municipality or the city is billed for. That's because after the investigation, the police have determined that the crime that was reported absolutely did not happen. So it is a different clearance status than we don't have enough evidence to continue the investigation. It is essentially saying that the investigation has been completed and is fulsome, and we've determined that no actual crime has taken place. You'll see property crime takes up really the majority of that. And the best example I can give for a situation like that is someone returns from a trip. They see that their garage is unlocked and they call in a break and enter. By the time the police arrive or a few hours later, they realize their son-in-law went in and borrowed their lawnmower. So that's an unfounded break and enter. So that'd be one example of how that would be populated into your property crime tab. The next page, we have referrals to our victim service agencies. So slight decline from the same quarter of 2024. We do have an in-house victim specialist out of the Pembroke building, one of only, I believe at this time, 7 across the province and the only one in East Region. We have additional training planned for late 2025, 2026 for our new members. And over the course of the summer, we've had a number of transfers into the detachment, as well as some new supervisors. So we just want to make sure that everyone is aware of the resources we are lucky to have in-house regarding our victim specialist. The very next page, we're breaking down the violent crime category within the city. Overall, decrease in essentially all categories compared to 2024. This is reflective to your billing stats where the calls for service are not coming to us regarding these violent crimes. Thankfully, there's been no serious offenses. Your homicides have remained at 0. Your attempted murders or other offenses causing death remain at 0. Next page is regarding youth charges within the city. So in this quarter, we've had no youth charge within the city compared to in 2024. We had 13 go through the diversion process with the partnership we have with the Phoenix Center. And as well, there were 7 convictions in 2024, but in this quarter, 2025, our numbers remain at 0 for youth. So that's the end of the quarter report. If anyone has questions about that, I'd open it up.
You have questions for the Officer Miller? Pat? Okay, Pat.
Okay, thank you for the very thorough report, as always. I guess I was looking at foot patrols, and I just want to clarify where the column says 2023 and 2024. Is that for the entire year? And then when we look at 2025, is it July to September only, or are those that time frame all those years?
Just to confirm, you're looking at this page?
Sorry,
Where the
I'm
foot patroller
looking
hours-
at,
Okay.
Yeah.
So those would be captured within the same quarter of each year.
okay,
So when you're looking at 2023 with 132 foot patrol hours, and then 2024 for 132.75, and this quarter of 2025 with 108, is that?
yeah, that was what I was wondering, because I know we requested or a desire to have more foot
Mhm.
patrols done, and I'm
Yeah.
just wondering, was it a staffing thing,
So
or is that not capturing
It's,
everything?
there's multiple pieces to that. So over the summer, calls for service are up and there's a lot of annual leave. So what we did is from May until September, we were under a provincial deployment model to fill our staffing levels. Also, when people are doing foot patrol in the downtown core or within the city, there's a specific DAR, so daily activity code, that they're supposed to be entering. However, what we found is officers are creating community engagement events. So, for example, we were at the Pembroke Multicultural Festival doing foot patrols.
Mhm.
But if two officers are there for 1 hour each and they are creating a community engagement call, it's not getting tracked in the same category.
Okay,
But the inspector has asked that we continue that increase in foot patrol hours. There have been requests to the sergeants to ensure that members are given time to do foot patrol within the city and the downtown core, and as well with the expectation that they are capturing it accurately.
okay,
So it's not that the foot patrols are not happening. It is a statistical piece of where this number is actually pulled from. We're not getting the best data organizationally.
okay, because I know this would be a concern, because I know many times councils expressed foot patrol increases, and, but at least I have an answer for that.
And we had a discussion approximately 2 to 3 weeks ago, and this is going to be directly addressed at our NCO meeting on October 28th, so next week,
Perfect.
making it very clear the importance of accurately capturing our foot patrol hours.
Very good. Just trying to think I had.
Just to that point as well, I think
Yeah.
it was very specific. That one is for downtown patrols, I think is how it's written.
Oh,
Is that, oh. This one?
no,
No, it's for
no,
both?
it just says patrol
Okay.
foot.
For,
yeah.
for the officers that do the entries also, we break it down into how many were downtown and how many were in the actual city limits as well.
Okay, okay.
So it's broken down even further.
Even further somewhere else in here,
Not in this.
or? Okay, in another. Perfect. Well, thank you. Let's see, my other one was. I folded the pages. Nope, it'll come to me. It'll come to me. That's fine, I can't.
Okay.
Thank
Des?
you.
My question is also around that page. Can we also ask that we get this on a year to date? When I'm reviewing the report, this is the only stat that we only get the quarter for.
Just to clarify, you'd like the
Where it's like
the
every,
patrol hours as a year to date as well, similar to the other categories?
so we can
um,
watch both.
Yes, we absolutely can do that. It might be kind of an addendum in the back of the report, but I can definitely
Okay.
have myself or the inspector make sure that the next one has the year to date included as well.
Perfect, thank you. And then the other question is on the page referring to mental health acts, that the first line, it says there's 2 occurrences, but it's blank. And so it's only 2 occurrences, but I just figured I'd ask what that was or why it was blank.
I don't know the answer. My gut instinct tells me that the occurrence is still open on our database, so the officer hasn't selected or hasn't been identified what type of actual occurrence it was.
Oh, okay, so
But-
that's kind of like a pending, and it might sort itself
That is my
out.
gut, but
Okay.
what I will do is I will find out the answer from how the report's generated, and I'll pass it on to the mayor.
Thank you.
That's your question, Pat? Yeah.
My other was more of a comment, just to, I know that I've heard, the odd comment out there about the fact that, we're getting way too soft on people that, create, perform offenses. and they're either on drugs or they've got mental health. We're getting too soft. I've heard that. And it's like they're getting away with stuff because of their mental health. It's nice to see that that is not the case. If they break the law, they break the law. But it's nice to know that there's other sources. They have a mental health worker at the court. They can often get legal aid. And there is a consequence to what they're doing that may promote them going for recovery if they are. So it's just nice to know that the people listening to this meeting or the news would get out that we are still doing that. The police are still making sure that they're charged if they need to be charged. It's not just, okay, let's take you away to get some help and a little slap on the hand. So it's good to know. So thank you.
Apologies, I just have to find the mental health page again.
Page numbers, it makes it a
Yeah.
little harder to find things.
And so are you looking at the bottom half of the report where it says Mental Health Act? So the Mental Health Act in Ontario covers various situations where someone may have to be apprehended. And it means that it's a mental health act occurrence legislatively, but does not fall into another type of occurrence.
So it doesn't fit into any one of these other buckets.
Correct.
88 different
Incidents that could range from any factor of a mental health component that don't fit into another specific category.
Yes.
So thank you very much for clarifying about like the fatal drug occurrences and how that might be reported somewhere else. My other question is about the Mental Health Act occurrences and the attempt or threat of suicide. Like that, I don't think I've ever seen that number that high. And what might be causing that? Like what?
Well, there's a number of issues within people's lives where they are trying to find a way out. We can't control that, but if they are exhibiting certain actions or say certain things that believe us that they need to attend a hospital and speak with a mental health provider, that's where that would get captured. But we can't control what the members of our community are doing. We can simply react and find them the resources and support and guide them to the right place to give them help.
Okay. So there was an increase and then that was just a reporting of you guys helping find the resources.
Hopefully, yes. And it doesn't show the past quarter or 2024, so I don't know that it was an increase or not, but I'll definitely take your word on it. But we can't control what we're running into or what we're dealing with. We can only try and guide them to the right support systems.
Awesome, thank you.
So if I can if we can go back to this different patrol hours and so forth. So the first one is that I noted one evening that uniformed officer with auxiliary OPP officers. So I take it that is how prevalent is that? Is that a new thing or in terms of foot patrol?
It all depends on the auxiliaries and the uniform members. So auxiliaries are a volunteer, so we don't schedule them for additional patrols or riding with officers. That is, if they want to, they'll reach out. As well, uniform officers have to be comfortable taking an auxiliary out because some uniform would prefer to have a uniform member with full use of force. Some are more comfortable with an auxiliary that only has some options of use of force. So it is not a scheduled piece, but we do have a very active auxiliary unit within Upper Ottawa Valley, and we have a number of officers that came from the auxiliary program. So they're quite adamant at helping out and giving these volunteers experience. Typically, auxiliaries are younger people that are looking into the policing field, and that's the right volunteer step for them to get some experience. But auxiliaries can go foot patrols, some of the community events. They can go on general patrol with the officers for the duration of a shift, and the officer or what I should say is the call for service kind of dictates the safety factors as to whether the auxiliary attends or stays in the car or has to get dropped off at the detachment, which unfortunately happens sometimes due to the safety and risk factors involved.
It was nice. It was nice to see that the officers working together. They were doing foot patrol. It was in the downtown. I also appreciate having the explanation because the statistics itself is one thing, but the explanation goes a long way to at least even for the public to understand different things, which brings me to another one, which is patrol and cruisers. And so I've tried to explain, not to this counselor, but to another counselor, that sometimes there is officers in the area and you may not necessarily know, not that they're undercover or anything like that, but they might be in plain clothes. But furthermore, even our cruisers, some of the cruisers, I say our cruisers, OPP cruisers, some of them are not necessarily marked, but you can, if you look at them close enough, you can tell that it's an OPP cruiser. So I was coming out of the library one evening and pointed out that is a cruiser if you didn't notice because certain things. So just to point out that sometimes the public may not necessarily believe that there's a police presence in a particular area when there is. So that's, I think we agree on that one.
Yeah, absolutely, Mr. Mayor. So for your patrol cruiser on this page, it's typically going to be a uniform member with a active duty car, but absolutely we have specialty units and we have other officers that are patrolling the city. You may not recognize them, or you may, and their time is not going to be captured under this category. It would be related to their ongoing projects and investigations.
So that would be even addition to this, because this particular vehicle, if you know what to look for, you'd spot it. You wouldn't spot it if it went by fast enough, but in any event. Another one that just, again, providing context and explanation when you got, for instance, here, and you were providing a great explanation in terms of patrol and schools, but this quarter is July and August. There's no school, and usually, and September. So to me, the 3.75 is consistent with the 2 previous years and their quarters, because I don't know, it's nice that you're doing patrols in the school zone, but if there's no school going on, I can see why the quarter would be lower.
Right. So September was the start of the school season. We had a community engagement officer step into the role in approximately the 15th of September and started the school visits during that time. So his time would be captured under this quarter in the last part of September, but he's doing the engagement and the outreach as opposed to in the olden days when officers would show up at the school and walk the halls and check lockers and change rooms and things like that. But the point I wanted to make is we are actively in the schools.
Yeah, I just don't want the public to think that, okay, it's 3 point whatever hours in the quarter, and so that's low, and so hence they're not in this. You got to look at what the time zone or the month zone is in the quarter as well to reflect upon, okay, there's so in September, and that makes sense. So 3.75 hours or whatever in September, but the other, you wouldn't be necessarily in there during the 2 prior months. And just nice to see in terms of even the criminal code offenses trending down. So that's nice to see as well. So that's just my reading all the different statistics and trying to figure out where things are headed and that sort of thing. Any other questions from Michael?
If we were to take the time that the officers and the auxiliary officers spent at the fishing derby, we could probably double that line of 108 hours. They were all along the waterfront, so they were patrolling in a sense. Just a comment.
Okay, so I think that's all the questions for that particular report. Did you want to move into your other items?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. So I just wanted to give some kind of overview of what's been going on, and I apologize. I based this report on the 23rd of June, 2025, not the July date. So my numbers might be a little skewed, or it might be information that you've already heard. But so since, again, 23rd of June, there's been 2,921 calls for service directly in the city of Pembroke, which represents 38% of all of Upper Ottawa Valley's calls for service. There were 89 alarms in the city. The city does receive a monthly false alarm report from us. We've had 13 offenders from the city added to the Provincial Offender Management Apprehension Program. As well, we were engaged with the Algonquin College strike and the Canada Post strike. So our provincial liaison team, our local officers were engaged with both sides of that bargaining units prior to and during the duration of those strikes, as well as patrols were made for public safety in each of the locations by the post office and Algonquin College site. Over the summer, I want to draw your attention to 3 specific media releases. So on July 9th, a media release went out regarding an event on Victoria Street where 3 people were arrested. They were all taken to bail court. Drugs and weapons were seized, as well as a motor vehicle, a bicycle, and other items that have been previously reported in theft occurrences. On August 1st, media release was put out regarding an event on Victoria Street in which our community street crime unit executed a warrant at a residence and 11 people were taken into custody. 2 were taken to bail court. Drugs, various weapons were seized. After the police investigation, the city fire department, health unit, the Ontario Electrical Safety Authority, and city bylaw were engaged for various inspections and enforcement. And a media release went out approximately 2 weeks ago, October 10th, regarding an event on Victoria Street. Multiple arrests and items were seized. After that investigation, a generator that had been hooked up to a residence on Victoria Street, in which the city received numerous bylaw and noise complaints, was seized by the fire department. These 3 releases just show the multi-pronged approach that is required regarding some of the issues in certain areas of the community where we can't police our way out of it. But together with all our stakeholders and partnerships, we can work to solve the problem in that specific area. Through the summer months, I'll move on to community events. So we had a number of bike safety presentations at daycares and day camps. We had a presentation at Algonquin College. We participated in the Pembroke Night Market Emergency Services event with recruiting display and vehicle display. I mentioned the Pembroke Multicultural Festival where we had patrols and people present. The Cops and Kids Fishing event was very well attended, as it always is. Our school visits are back in session. That included Terry Fox Run support for Bishop High School. And as well, very recently, we participated in the Renfrew County Municipal Day with a recruiting and vehicle display as well. Traffic statistics for the city, again, back to the 23rd of June, and I do apologize. 179 tickets were laid within the city of Pembroke. There were 66 Part 3 offenses issued, which are for more serious violations, such as there were 17 suspended drivers, 9 without insurance, and 6 unsafe vehicles. There were 16 impaired driving charges laid. 5 of those were impaired by drug. There were 32 ride programs within the city. And as well, for the long weekends, we participated in all the provincial traffic initiatives. The following statistics there for the Upper Ottawa Valley Detachment as a whole, not just to the city of Pembroke, because I have no way to dial that in, but Canada Day long weekend, there were 99 total charges, including 7 criminal code driving offenses. August long weekend, 71 charges, including 4 criminal code driving offenses. September long weekend, there were 146 charges, including 3 criminal code driving offenses. And the October Thanksgiving long weekend, there were 60 total charges with 4 criminal code driving offenses. But again, that's Upper Ottawa Valley Detachment as a whole. In terms of staffing, first thing I'll bring your attention to is on August 8th, there was a provincial-wide OPP implementation of a court security enhancement at all provincial courthouses where a judge is sitting. What that means for the Pembroke courthouse is there's now an armed uniformed officer at the one public entrance wanting everybody coming into the courthouse. That's for safety concerns regarding an incident in Northern Ontario. That additional uniformed officer complements our existing special constable and part-time constable that are at the courthouse during business hours. So we did not pull a resource from our road staffing, nor did we pull a resource from our existing complement at the courthouse. These are additional shifts that we're currently covering through overtime to make sure that that armed security presence is at the front door. Locally, Inspector Neufeld has returned from his secondment to East Region headquarters. Acting Staff Sergeant Sylvain Sabrin is currently the operations manager of the Pembroke building. And we're excited that we have received and are getting some additional recruits. So 3 new recruits arrived to Upper Ottawa Valley in August, 2 to the Pembroke building. 2 recruits are arriving in November. We've had 1 confirmed sergeant transfer from Western Ontario to Pembroke in July. We've had 2 constables from the OPP transfer from their locations to Upper Ottawa Valley in September. As well, an experienced police officer from York Regional Police joined the OPP and is working out of the Pembroke location since September as well. Barring any questions regarding that update, yes.
Just a small one, and it's timely since you just talked about the recruitment. Are you seeing much interest at the local events when there's a recruiting display?
We see some. Because the recruiting is done through Aurelia and the recruiting process, we don't know how many of those turn into true applicants, but all of our recruiting events across the detachment, the province, there's always interest. The municipal day that we just had at Renfrew County had at least 2 people locally that came up and expressed interest, and we give them the information. We have recruitment ambassadors that can provide them a little more detail as to the entirety of the process and what's involved. But we don't ever find out how many of those turned into true applications. So without any other questions regarding that report, I'll turn it over to Acting Staff Sergeant Sylvain Sabrin for another update.
Afternoon. We just received the information that the grant was successful for the Community Safety and Policing Grant. This is not to replace the MCERT grant that we had applied for, but that funding that came through could supplement until that grant comes in. It was written in conjunction with that. And if I'm not mistaken, I think the amount was substantial, and it was just released. $117,000, just over $117,000. Any questions for the actual grant?
Refresh my mind. What are we going to use those dollars for? Cameras? Is it cameras? Or?
No, for this one, because it's until the actual MCERT grant is finalized, we can use it to have an extra clinician added to the group. So right now we have 2 of them, and we have 2 officers that are with them full time. Not knowing again what's going to happen with the MCERT grant, that money can be used for a clinician. It will also help because the local hospital has been doing a lot of the funding. We can also alleviate some of the expenses that they'd have to incur. The grant for MCERT, the last one, ended in May 2025. So right now they're on borrowed time.
Thank you to the OPP, the acting inspector and so forth for putting it together, and for the clerk to upload it. So it's everyone coming together to be able to submit it on time, and then wait to see what the province is going to do about it. Is there any questions arising out of that? I have another question that I thought of while you were giving those reports. Criminal records checks. So my understanding is we no longer do it here. But there's certainly delays because I'm getting asked, people submitting it and they need it for work or whatever. The question is this, is there anything that we can do, whether it's the Police Services Board or the City of Pembroke, and maybe in concert with other municipalities, to try and get the individuals working on it supplemented so that they're processed quicker or something? I'm not naive. I don't know that it's ever coming back to being controlled locally, but something to try and, because it's impacting people's working lives and so forth as well.
So yes, Mr. Chair. So the criminal record checks have gone online, and unfortunately there is no local way to work around that, and there is a large wait time. What they've done about approximately a month ago is they've increased the allotment of hours that the people doing records checks are allowed to do, which includes coming in on nights and weekends on overtime to try and reduce the backlog. My recommendation would be if anyone that comes to you or any employment, they know that they're going to need a record check, to get it in as soon as possible, not to wait, because the delays are still in the roughly 10-week mark. And that's out of our control. For example, I'm waiting for one as well. But there's nothing we can do locally from the OPP standpoint. I don't know if from your chair or a county chair, there could be a petition or something to the government to try to reduce that time even more. But organizationally, we're taking steps to reduce that wait time with this overtime complement, as well as getting some more people trained on how to do the actual process. But there is a significant wait currently for those online checks.
Christine?
Now, is that just like a criminal records check, or where are we at with vulnerable sector searches? Because they were always a whole lot longer.
So all of those checks, regardless if it's a vulnerable sector or a plain record check for school or, you know, a placement that's not within a vulnerable sector, they're all in the same pool, if you would.
The difficulty is, like, right now, we're not even in, you know, the season. Well, I guess possibly we're in the season in terms of hockey, but I know that historically, if soccer was about to hit or what have you, the inspector would do what he needed to do to have the necessary resources, work all weekend, plow through all the different applications and so forth. And I'm not looking to create issues for the OPP. I'm just looking for something that would assist the OPP in making the argument that we need additional funding, bodies, whatever it is. Because, like, for instance, my daughter is one of them, and she goes, I applied, Dad, but can't work until I get it. And I'm like, okay, so you got someone that wants to work, can't work because they got to fulfill this. And she's asking me, and I said, those days are gone where there'd be a blitz and we would work through all these backlogs. But so anyways, if there's something that way, then certainly I'm game for it. Christine?
Keep the conversation going. It sounds to me like it's a very much a political thing, because we hear our federal, provincial politicians telling us that they're there for the people and they're going to do everything for people to succeed. But if you can't work, you can't succeed. And if you need a criminal reference check to work, then I think political pressures need to be put on. And I think it's maybe time to sit down with our new MPP and say, we need some action here. This is crazy.
Mr. Chair, just to your point, we have 3 of our detachment administrative clerks. They are part of that overtime program where they're coming in on nights or weekends to reduce that backlog, but they don't get to pick and choose which ones they do. They simply log into essentially the provincial database and they get assigned like the most outstanding ones. So they're not doing at this time specifically Upper Ottawa Valley ones, but locally we do have 3 people supporting that program to reduce that backlog. But again, it's the backlog for the province, not just the detachment area.
Loud and clear, it's for the entire province, but even as a solution, that's a temporary band-aid. At some point, you're going to burn people out. They're not going to want to do overtime. They're going to burn out. And so that's possibly short-term, but it's certainly not a long-term solution to what's clearly going on from my vantage point. Pat?
I hear what Christina's saying, though. I mean, maybe pressure to change this back to the way it was. I mean, it wouldn't hurt. We can just say it's not working. We have local people that are not working, literally, because they're waiting. And if it wasn't broken before, like, why did they fix it? You know, I mean, obviously there was still a wait prior, but this seems to be backlogged. I mean, maybe it's got a lot in common with CRA right now. Like, you know, maybe instead of getting served in 18 minutes, it's hours and hours. So I don't know. I don't know if people are working from home. Like, you know, I'm just saying, who knows why? Like, I mean, obviously they haven't staffed it properly, but I mean, I don't know what can we do at a board level to put that political pressure on and say, this is happening in our community.
Perhaps if there's a motion by this board, I have certainly no issue speaking with the MPP about it, or at our council, we could bring forward a motion there to try and bring it to the attention of the, because it's, to me, it's provincial. That's where in terms of the necessary funding for the necessary bodies to get this, because if it's starting to impact the economy, and let's face it, the
Yeah.
province wants a booming economy and so forth, and well, then you need to resolve some of these issues. Christine?
I'd be happy to make a motion that you as the mayor of Pembroke request a meeting with MPP Deneau
Yeah, I'll second
on
that.
this matter.
I'll second it.
If there's any discussion on it, feeling which they'll call discussion. Des?
Before we meet with our MPP, should we reach out to the other detachments in like Renfrew, and I guess it's just Renfrew because Renfrew controls our empire, but we should reach out to them and get them to come in on that together as a letter of support and get, because that's numbers, right?
Yeah, to me, it should be the entire detachment that's, in other words, boards, coming together with the common push.
So
Yes.
I think we should amend that motion to have a letter sent to the other boards to see if we can get all of them on support. And then Mayor Gervais can bring that forward.
So we have all the same political representatives? Yeah, I believe we do. That Mr. Deno would be this, yes, okay, thank you.
That amendment, if there's no other discussion, I'll call the question to that one. Those in favor? That's carried. Thanks. Great. Any other items from your side?
No, sir, unless there's any other questions or clarification.
Other questions? Nope. Okay, thank you very much. Moves us to new business, community watch meeting. So just an oral report. So on October 15th, a community watch meeting was held at the Pembroke Fire Hall. From our board, there was myself as well as Michael in attendance. The chairs from all, I believe it's 8 zones at this point, together with representation from the OPP, as well as Brian Abdallah, who chairs it together with myself. Brian gave a presentation in terms of what, because we never know if there's new individuals in the room, and normally there is. So as to what the Community Watch program is about, and provide that sort of a background. In addition, I provided some information from the police board perspective, as well as from the city of Pembroke, including that, as I understand it, signage is up at all zones now, because that was an item that we were tasked with, trying to get the signage up at the last zone. Conversation about the new officers, conversation about the community improvement plan, as having a crime prevention through environmental design grant that was going to come forward, as well as conversation about the action plan that we talked about earlier. It was then turned over to each of the different zones. Some of the zones, I'm quite pleased to say, are quiet as it was expressed to the rest of us, including the Chamberlain Street zone, the zone off of Boundary Road, which some of us might call the Johnson subdivision. So there's a number of zones that are quote unquote quiet. And so Mr. Halpenny kicked us off. He is the captain for the zone, which is Victoria Street to Moffat Street to Mary Street, in and around that area on the border of the library, that sort of area. He described that there's challenges, and it's a matter of working through the challenges. Once we, so then the OPP provided a presentation in terms of a very high level, in terms of how busy, if I can put it that way, how busy the area is in terms of OPP and hours and that sort of thing. Then from that perspective, it opens it up to questions and answers. I'd say there was, I'm guessing, around 50 people-ish. Okay, so 50 people, and that hall only holds 60. So going forward, there's I'm having conversations with Brian, trying to find a location that doesn't have certain logistical challenges of that room, because you can't have more than 60, number one. Number two, if there's a call, in other words, a fire call, we all need to leave because there's no one there at those hours. And so we're looking at different locations, although that will bring with it a cost. So it's unclear to me. I haven't had that conversation with Brian yet in terms of whether they'll be looking to this board, because we already do supply funding for signage and we supply funding for pamphlets and other information that gets released to the public. What else? So the William Street, there is a zone there. The captain for that area indicates that there is activity in her area. But we did talk about successes like Chamberlain Street, for instance. There was activity at one particular house and identifying it, working together with the OPP and so forth. That has been cleared up, and that is one of the zones that is now quiet. Then there was opened up for questions and answers. It became more of a conversation, I'll put it that way, as opposed to questions and answers. There certainly wasn't, in my opinion, questions as to things that people are observing in their particular area, including different individuals in the Victoria Street area. There was representation from the grind. A number of different individuals from the grind was present, and always pleased to see the media. Mr. Evans was there as well to learn what it is that was being discussed at the meeting. Unless Michael has some other items. I think that's pretty much it. So to me, it's always worthwhile. It's still not to lose from the fact of individuals in their community. It's not vigilantism. It's just taking note if you see something that's suspicious. Still seems to be an ongoing issue in terms of getting people to call either 911 if it's an emergency, or the non-emergent line when it's just something that they're observing that's amiss or what have you. So in any event, I find it interesting. There was a rep there from the PBIA area, was speaking to the issue of foot patrol, noted that a number, so I've done foot patrol with the inspector before, plus they've noticed the foot patrol. She expressed that it would be nice if when someone is doing foot patrol, if they're making contact with different business owners. I know whenever I'm there, that's what we do. It's not just walk up and down Main Street and then leave. It's actually going in and visiting different individuals so that they know they can put a face to the name. The officers aren't, it's sort of like whenever you're in the schools, it's not scary. They're not someone to be feared of. It's, this is who you're calling when you call different numbers and so forth. So anyway, she had expressed that. I'm just trying to think in terms of around the room, other things that might have been said. I don't know. Des?
Can I ask when the next one is?
Great question, and yes, you can ask. I don't have a date, so we haven't set the date yet. And in concert, it will be to try and locate either. I suspect it's either going to be the Legion or Knights of Columbus Hall, and to book that venue and then say to the public, okay, this is the date that we've picked. We don't seem to have any rhyme or reason or magic other than it's twice a year, generally speaking. So we didn't get there yet. But great question.
Just to your point, Mr. Chair, for recruits coming in, they have mandatory foot patrol hours that we ask of them. And not just that, also community contacts. So not just walk straight down, they are to engage with members of the public, which would include business owners downtown. So I'm glad that person brought that up.
Yes. Is that a recent, so there was a PBI meeting that the CAO and I attended, I think it's last week at this point. In any event, having just different discussions, they were interested to hear about the CIP program, about the crime prevention by environmental design, as well as they were curious to know about foot patrol and whatnot. But I would say that at the last PBIA meeting, there wasn't a lot of angst or expression of concern, because I know that I've attended some meetings before at the PBIA that had concerns. In fact, the inspector was there on one of them to comment about safety and so forth. But this last meeting was quite tame in that regard. Yeah. Pat?
Yeah, overall, I think things have improved in the community overall. When you listen to all the stats, I mean, everything from, theft under 5,000, property, I think everything's happening really well. When we have a group of individuals loitering in a public place doing things. Things you're not supposed to be doing in a public place. I know individuals do reach out to the police, and we do have a loitering bylaw, do we not? Yeah. So is it our bylaw officer, or would that be the police? You know, I mean, we had a recent episode at the Cenotaph where that was ongoing. So I just wanted to clarify that with individuals. I mean, if they're doing illicit drugs, I guess it's both. It's bylaw and it's police as well. So if you could just, if you get a call saying there's a group of people, what would the response be?
So with the OPP, we are not currently enforcing any bylaws within the city of Pembroke. So we would deal with the other legislative authorities that we have. And if there was bylaw infractions, we would pass that information on to bylaw services. So if it was during the hours when bylaw is working, they'd be contacted and asked to attend. If it was outside of the hours, that information is then shared and they can follow up as appropriate on next working day.
Unless obviously there was a report that they were doing controlled substances, and then you would report in. Okay.
Of course, yes.
Of
If
course.
we were called and we attend, we would deal with whatever legislative authorities we have. If it was
Exactly.
drugs, Trespass to Property Act, Liquor License Act,
Good.
like we would do that enforcement
Yeah.
or deal with it under the authorities we have. But in terms of a bylaw from the city, that would be passed
Yeah.
on to bylaw
That's what I
services.
thought. So individuals need to be very clear when they're calling the police that they detail it to see what would bring you there, not just a property bylaw. Okay, thank you.
To share with this board, after the special watch meeting, there was a meeting held with Officer Miller, myself, Mr. Halpenny, because he's the captain of all the different, I forget what the word is for him, but anyways, of all the community watch captains and so forth, to have that exact conversation, because there seemed to be a misunderstanding as to what the OPP does, what our bylaw does. I will say that I spoke to the inspector again 2 weeks ago, I believe it is. And he wants to, he's always looking at new initiatives and ways of doing things. And he wants to work in a more collaborative approach with our bylaw. And I have spoken with bylaw and they are game for it. So there's something that's going to unfold, I'm hoping, in the next couple of weeks. But there is something unfolding. So there is movement afoot to, it's not to say that it already isn't happening and so forth, but it's to work more collaboratively and be seen as working collaboratively so that the public understands who and what. But as we expressed to, I guess in that role, he's Mr. Abdel, to express to him that OPP do a certain thing, bylaw does other things. And anyways, to get that point across so that there isn't seemingly this belief that the OPP after hours are going to start enforcing our bylaws, which isn't the case. Nor, I don't know if there's even the resources to do that. And I don't know if I want those resources doing that, but anyways. Okay. Any other items on that one? If not, we can turn it over to Madam Clerk to discuss meeting dates.
All right, good afternoon. So attached to this month's board package is a report to outline and try and plan ahead for some 2026 meeting dates. This will just allow the board to agree ahead of time to dates that work for them at this time. They're subject to change, but then also to provide the public with some transparency and due notice of when we're going to meet. As stipulated in the terms of reference, the board shall meet a minimum of 4 times per year and more frequently at the discretion of the chair if so required. So I did lay out some dates based loosely on this year's meeting dates. Typically, it's the third, second Wednesday in the month. These are open for discussion and amendment, but I thought I would provide these to the board to see what worked, what didn't work, and hopefully set some concrete dates if we're able to for 2026.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. And in part, in terms of setting the dates, is always to set it in such a date to enable the OPP to generate their quarterly report. I've already shared with Michael, for instance, so the January 21st, I'm scheduled in a 2-week Superior Court trial. So if it proceeds, I will not be here for the 21st. And the reason why I led with what I said is you can't necessarily, well, you can have a meeting earlier, but you're not going to have the quarterly report. So you're going to be hamstringed a little bit in terms of what you're going to be discussing at that particular meeting. So. Yes.
The only date that doesn't work for me is September 30th, because that would be month end and I'd be swamped with month end.
Mr. Chair, can I make a comment? Is September 30th not National Day for Truth and Reconciliation? I don't think staff will be here.
Yes. So I wanted to note that, and I should, I was noted after the fact, should have highlighted that accordingly, but I thought we'd go ahead and amend the dates at will if there wasn't. Thank you for bringing that up.
So would there be any problem with us moving the first meeting to February at some point to accommodate your court dates?
That's entirely up to the board. I know the first meeting, we always pick a chair as well. So it'd be nice to have everyone present for a chair and a vice chair. It'd be nice to have everyone present for that. All I'm saying is you can't move it up because you won't get a quarterly report in time, and I'm not even.
I'm okay with moving it a week or two, like the 28th of January too. How long is your trial? 2 weeks. It's 2 weeks. Why do we have this? Wednesday?
So if everyone's good, at the very least, we could set the first meeting for February 4th, and then, I don't know, it's up to the public or the board, sorry, what you want to do.
And if I may offer through the chair, so if we set the first meeting, what I can do is set out like a doodle poll, and then we can get consensus through that, through some back and forth. I know everyone's very busy. So if we can set the first meeting for February, if I heard correctly, the 4th at 1 o'clock, then at least we have that in place. I'll set out a doodle poll and just then update our website as well to
Does
serve
that
notice.
work from your, like, I don't know when the Petawawa PSB meets or anything like that.
Sorry, will it remain at 1 o'clock?
Yeah.
I think that's the thought, so that in terms of staffing and so forth, people aren't doing overtime and like in an evening.
Generally, February 4th should work.
Okay. Just, I know sometimes when I try to get a hold of the inspector, he's off to Petawawa at the time. Okay. So if we're good with that, the issue of the grant was dealt with under correspondence, and generally speaking, just so that everyone's aware, what I try to do is when things come in, whether it be OAPSB and so forth, I circulate it at that time as opposed to holding it for a quarterly meeting. So we have the next meeting date. And so unless there's something else for the good of this board, I'd sound like Rotary or Kiwanis, but anyways, I call for an adjournment, moved by Des, seconded by Christine. Those in favor, we are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.